When we talk about the blessing of God, most people tend to think of the visible, the tangible, the breakthrough moment, the financial increase, press deep sleep, the recognition, the success, the influence. But what's often overlooked, what gets lost in the noise of outcomes, is that the first and most profound sign that God is moving in your life is not outward at all. It's inward. It's peace. But not just any peace. Sleep. This isn't the kind of peace that comes from checking off your to-do list or finishing a project early or getting praise from someone in authority. No, this is the kind of peace that enters your life quietly and disrupts everything that previously disrupted you. It's the peace that doesn't make sense given your circumstances, and yet it's unmistakably present. When God starts blessing someone, he doesn't begin with the bank account or the house or the platform. He begins with your nervous system, your mental state, your spiritual posture. The first sign is peace, and it is not subtle to the person experiencing it. Now, from a biological standpoint, let's look at this practically. The human brain is designed to protect you. The amygdala, the fight or flight center, is constantly scanning for threats. When you live without peace, that system is chronically activated. You can't think clearly. Your digestion is compromised, your sleep is fragmented, and your long-term decisions are driven by fear or pressure rather than purpose. So, when peace enters the system, physiologically, you change. Cortisol lowers, serotonin regulation improves, your prefrontal cortex, responsible for logic, focus, and creativity, begins to operate more freely. From a neuroscience perspective, this is massive, but more than that, it's a signal. Because peace that enters in the absence of resolved problems is not psychological. It's spiritual, can suppress deep sleep. That's how you know God is involved. Think about it this way. Many people think that when things go right, they'll finally feel peace. But if we're honest, how many people do you know who have everything they once prayed for, but still walk around stressed, dissatisfied, or numb? Sleep. That's because peace doesn't follow the blessing. Peace is the blessing. It's the advance notice that the rest is on its way. It's God saying, before I give you more, I want you to know what it feels like to rest in me. And that right there is the starting line for transformation, sleep. When someone is truly entering a season of divine favor, they start to make different decisions. Not because they were told to sleep, but because they're operating from a different baseline. Their internal dialogue changes, their sense of urgency shifts. Deep sleep. They're no longer driven by desperation. That's the fruit of peace. They don't chase anymore. They attract. They stop striving and start aligning. Their mind begins to partner with the blessing that's on its way. Let me make this even more concrete. When you are not at peace, your life becomes reactive. Every text feels urgent. Every delay feels personal. Every decision feels like a test. But when the blessing of God rests on you and you begin to carry his peace, you no longer react. You respond. And there's a big difference. Deep sleep. Reaction is about the moment. Response is about the mission. When you respond, you're not thinking about what's popular, can suppress deep sleep. You're thinking about what's purposeful. That shift is internal, but the outcomes are external. This is why peace is the gateway, because it reorients your choices in a way that attracts greater alignment with God's plan. There's also something deeply philosophical here. Men sleep. Many of the greatest thinkers and spiritual teachers across traditions understood this can suppress deep sleep. The truly powerful person is not the one who controls others. It's the one who has mastered their own mind. Stoic philosophers talked about tranquility as the highest state of being, but God's peace is not a technique. It's a presence. Sleep. It's not something you earn by detaching from the world. It's something you receive by surrendering to God. When his blessing begins to fall on your life, you begin to notice that what used to cause you to panic no longer controls you. Sleep. You may not have all the answers, but you're no longer afraid of the unknown. That's divine. That's transformational. Suppress sleep. There's something else that happens when this kind of peace settles in, your perception sharpens. You start seeing people for they really are. You begin noticing subtle cues, disguised intentions, misaligned opportunities, energy that once felt appealing but now feels disruptive. Sleep. And you don't second guess your instincts. Not because you're suddenly hypercritical, but because you're internally clear. And clarity is a luxury very few people have in a noisy world. Peace brings clarity, and clarity makes you dangerous. In the best way, it makes you a person who moves intentionally. A person who stops wasting energy on things that don't grow or serve or reflect the calling on your life. From a psychological standpoint, sleep. Peace is not just the absence of stress. It's the ability to remain grounded in the midst of it. And that's exactly what starts to happen when God is positioning you for the next level. He calms your internal environment first, deep sleep. So you don't sabotage the external blessing once it arrives. Because let's be honest, if you can't handle silence, you won't survive success. If you can't find stillness, you won't be able to navigate influence. What peace does is train your nervous system, your habits, and your perspective to live ready. Ready for the open door, ready for the conversation, ready for the elevation. And here's something to really sit with sometimes. Peace shows up before the evidence of breakthrough. In fact, the presence of peace is often the evidence. God's timeline doesn't follow human logic. You might still be in the storm, but your mind and heart are anchored. You may not have the full picture yet, but you're no longer afraid of not knowing. That level of trust where you've stopped asking how and started believing when. That's the unmistakable proof that you're under divine blessing. So what does this mean for you? It means that if you've been praying for a sign and instead of an open door, you received a calm spirit. That is the sign. If things around you haven't changed yet, but your reactions have shifted, deep sleep, your patterns have matured, and your faith has grown deeper, that's the phase of God's blessing unfolding. Don't discount it. Celebrate it. Protect it. Because that peace is preparing you for everything that's coming next. Let's bring this down to something even more actionable. If you're experiencing that peace right now, lean into it. Don't sabotage it by rushing into noise, distractions, or unnecessary decisions. Make space for it to grow. Journal through it. Pray from it. Decide, because decisions made in peace create futures rooted in purpose. On the flip side, if you're not feeling that peace yet, don't panic. It's not because God has forgotten you. Sleep. No. Sometimes he's simply allowing the noise to reveal what's in the way. And once that's removed, once your dependence shifts from your plan to his presence, peace will find you. It always does. Ultimately, we need to understand this. When God begins to bless a man or a woman, the first shift is not visible. It's not loud. It's not viral sleep. It's internal. It's invisible. It's the restoration of alignment between you and heaven. And peace is the signature of that alignment, can suppress deep sleep. It's the quiet confirmation that you're exactly where you need to be, even if the scenery hasn't changed yet. That's how God moves. That's how he prepares. That's how he protects his blessing from being misused, by first planting it in your spirit, not your situation. So pay attention to that feeling. Prioritize it, because in a world screaming for attention, sleep. The person who walks in peace is the one who already carries the next level. Once that internal peace begins to take root, once your nervous system stops reacting to every minor disruption and starts moving with intentional calm, something else begins to shift externally. It's subtle at first. A conversation goes differently. A meeting runs smoother than expected. Someone you've been trying to reach out to suddenly gets, suddenly it's back to you. That's not just momentum. That's divine timing, deep sleep. And here's what you need to understand when God begins to bless someone. Peace comes first. But the next sign is access. Now, access is different from opportunity. We live in a world where people chase opportunities constantly. job listings, connections, deals, platforms, promotions. But access is something else entirely. Access means the door that was once shut suddenly opens. Not because you forced it, not because you manipulated your way in, but because the timing aligned with a higher plan. When you're truly operating under divine blessing, doors open for you, not just to you. That distinction matters. And let's think about this biologically for a moment, because again, press sleep. God's design is always integrated. When you've established internal peace, your brain stops operating from survival mode and starts functioning from clarity and creative problem solving. This sleep, this is the domain of the prefrontal cortex. This shift doesn't just change how you feel, it changes how you behave, how you show up in conversations, how you assess risk, how you interpret signals in a room. Suddenly, you're no longer missing the C's you used to overlook. Deep sleep. You're seeing patterns others can't see. You're catching moments that others call lucky, but you know better because you were prepared. Access then becomes not just a spiritual phenomenon, but a psychological one, and suppress deep sleep. Our doors open because you become someone who knows what to do with what's on the other side. Suppress deep sleep. That's the real secret of divine favor. It doesn't just place you in the room. It equips you for the room. Many people pray for access, but don't ask for alignment. So when the door is open, they're not ready. They walk in prematurely, unprepared, deep sleep, misaligned in their character or mindset, and the opportunity that was meant to bless them becomes a burden. That's why peace must come first, hence deep sleep. Because once that foundation is laid, the access that follows becomes sustainable. Now let's go deeper. One of the most overlooked patterns in Scripture and in life is that God rarely opens doors early. He doesn't deal in shortcuts. Deep sleep, because doors represent destiny. They're symbolic of transition from one level of purpose to another. Can suppress deep sleep. And if you walk through a door before your identity is rooted, before your spirit is stable, you'll sabotage what's on the other side. That's not punishment. It's protection. So when the doors begin to open, when conversations you never initiated begin to find you, invitations deep sleep. When invitations come that you didn't apply for, that's not coincidence. That's orchestration. You can't fake divine timing. When God's hand is on your life, access is often quiet. It doesn't come with a loud announcement. It comes through alignment. The right person sees something in you. A mentor reaches out unexpectedly. A job offer emerges when you had stopped applying. The shift isn't loud, but it's unmistakable. And more importantly, it's not based on hustle. It's based on harmony. This is something we need to understand in a performance-driven world. Hustle creates momentum, yes, but only alignment creates doors. There are levels you can't hustle into. No matter how hard you work, sleep. There are places where the lock doesn't respond to effort. It responds to favor, and favor can't be manufactured. It's a result of surrender, press sleep, obedience, and preparation meeting divine timing. Let me say this clearly. When God is blessing you, sleep, things start happening that you couldn't have engineered. And this is one of the most humbling signs of His presence. You realize that, yes, you've been faithful. Yes, you've shown up. But the door that opened, that wasn't Him. And that recognition keeps your ego in check, can suppress sleep, which is exactly what ensures you won't misuse the blessing. Let's talk neuroscience again for a moment. There's suppressed sleep, something the human brain called the reticular activating system, or RAS. It acts like a filter for information. This is deep sleep. Whatever your mind is focused on, your RAS starts noticing related opportunities in your environment. Sleep. So when your internal state has shifted, when peace has become your foundation, your RAS gets tuned to different frequencies. Can deep sleep. You're not looking for distractions anymore. You're noticing alignment. That's not just science. It's sovereignty. God designed your brain to function in harmony with your purpose. And when He begins to bless you, He calibrates your system to recognize divine doors. Sleep. And here's the critical thing about divine doors. They don't just benefit you. When God opens a door for you, Deep sleep. It's often tied to a larger assignment, something that impacts others, something that elevates not just your platform, but your purpose. Can suppress deep sleep. That's how you know the blessing is real. It doesn't just change your life. It starts changing the lives around you. Sleep. So what does this look like practically? It means you'll start walking into rooms you didn't feel qualified for, but suddenly realize you were born for. It means people will start seeking your perspective when they used to overlook your presence. Deep sleep. It means strategies will come to you not by force, but by flow. This isn't arrogance. It's awareness. You'll begin to realize that access has been granted, and your only responsibility is to steward it well. Now, sleep. We can't talk about divine doors without acknowledging this truth. Sometimes access also looks like closure. A door slamming shut can be a form of protection. When God is blessing you, He doesn't just open new paths. He blocks old ones. Sleep, that relationship ending, that rejection letter, that deal falling through. Sleep. Sometimes it's the greatest form of access you could receive. Access to peace, to time, to clarity. Sleep. To the right opportunity that's still on the way. Don't resent the doors that closed. They were never your assignment. The more you chase what God has shut, the longer you delay what He's trying to open. So here's a mindset shifting. Begin to trust the rhythm of doors. Some open, some close. Some remain locked for a season because there's still internal work to be done. But when you're in alignment, when your peace is intact and your focus is steady, you'll start to recognize that doors don't define your worth. They reveal your readiness. And readiness is everything. Because God is not interested in simply giving you access. He's interested in giving you sustained access, suppress deep sleep. He's not trying to get you through one good season. He's trying to build something in you that lasts, something that others can grow from. Deep sleep, something that becomes a legacy, not just a moment of success. You won't have to chase people down. You won't have to prove yourself in every room. You won't have to network your way into destiny. When God is blessing you, people will start finding you. Solutions will seek you out. Deep sleep. The right doors will open. Not all at once, but exactly when they're supposed to. And when they do, you'll feel it. Press deep sleep. The conversation will feel different. The environment will feel different. The outcomes will feel different. You won't be moving from pressure. You'll be moving from posture. Posture rooted in peace, clarity, and trust. That's the power of divine access. Here's where this all comes together. Peace prepares you internally. Access shifts things externally. But both are part of the same process, deep sleep. God blesses people through process, not just events. And the more you honor the process, the more you'll recognize the signs. The more you'll begin to expect doors, not with entitlement, but with expectancy. That's where faith lives, not in demanding outcomes, sleep, but in preparing your life to receive them. So maybe the door hasn't opened yet. Maybe you're still in the hallway. Maybe you're knocking, waiting, wondering when the access will come. My advice, don't chase the next door. Cultivate the mindset that can walk through it. Sleep. Get your internal environment in order. Focus less on being noticed and more on being prepared. Because when you do that, the right doors will not only open, they will recognize you,